Okay, we're moving into week 2 material. So we're going to cover stuff in week 2 now. And what's that going to be? It's going to be basically absolute value inequalities and an introduction to analytic geometry. All right. After we finish week 2, though, that is after we go through the lecture, the examples, and the supplemental problems, you're then to do the WebAssign. All right. So the other thing I want to make sure that you're doing is, trying to make an entry into the weekly discussion group. That could also include that, just stopping by during office hours and, discussing something with me would certainly fit that description as being a participation as well. All right. Okay. So I'm going to go through the absolute value inequalities, very simple stuff. One is, can you understand what you've read? If you can, good for you, because that's going to go a long way in being able to do these problems without memorizing. And I think memorization could be the worst thing possible. However, it does work. The next thing up, after you do that, there's supplemental activities. Again, I'll post a video on that. Or a lecture on that, I should say, or maybe a video. I'm not sure yet. Maybe we'll talk about related stage code, yada, yada, yada. In week 2, we'll also talk about the analytic geometry. We'll talk about it. We'll get through it. We'll have some example questions. Yep, we'll get through that. Supplemental activities. I don't know if I'll post a video or do a lecture on that. It kind of depends how much time we spend in the material, by the way. But anyway, that stuff will be done. All right. Once you're done with that, then we go into week 3. All right. We'll talk about technology as well. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I want to go back to the beginning of week 2. All right. Yeah, I know the notes are long for some students. It seems like a lot of work. We go page by page, though. I'm going to switch to the whiteboard. What I'm going to do is one thing at a time. Absolute value inequalities. And then I'll start doing the examples. All right. So let me take a look and go to the whiteboard. I got to do another share with you, right? All right. Material covered. And we're on the absolute value stuff. So I'm sure you're familiar with it. Absolute value is actually covered in Math 086 at Essex County College. But then it's sort of like not discussed again until you get to Math 119. I'm not sure why that is, but they don't discuss it too much. But you should be aware the absolute value of a number is indicated. I'll write this down for you. That the absolute value of A, it's written this way over here. It's read as the absolute value of A. Well, it could equal A. This is important you know this. If the A is a positive number or greater than or equal to 0. So if A is 0 or more, it would just equal A. However, if A is a negative number, it would equal the opposite of it. So I would say over here, you should have some appreciation what they're saying about this. They're saying if basically all it is what's called a distance from the origin. So for example, the absolute value of 3 is 3 because it's 3 units from the origin. If I did the absolute value of -5, I would say it's 5 because it's 5 units from the origin. So it's basically a distance problem from the origin. And if you could think of it that way, it might help you do these inequalities, all right? So I'm going to tell you, there are going to be 2 types of inequalities that you're going to see for absolute values. I'll write them down for you. The first type you're going to get is this one over here. The absolute value is going to be less than or possibly equal to some number A. Right now, if I were reading that, I would wonder, what is that asking me to do? Well, it wants the distance that thing X is. It wants to be within A units of the origin. So what does that mean? Well, this implies to me that X would have to be between -A and A. Now, let's say you add this one instead. Well, it's really the same story, except now it includes the equality. All right, so that's covered. Again, this stuff's all written in your notes, by the way, but I'm hoping you can read that and understand what you've read. All right, let's talk about the next one. The next one's going to be the absolute value of A is greater than A units from the origin. So what does that mean to me? Well, it means something. It means this. It means the X could be greater than A, or the X could be less than -A. It means those 2 things. All right. Now, again, if I did this instead, what does it mean? X could be greater than or equal to A. Again, it's just a reasoning skill, or X could be less than or equal to -A. We're going to go to examples next. All right, a very short section. My recommendation, think, think, think. If you can think and read, it's going to bode well when you start doing the examples. But this is it for absolute inequality. Thank you.